Hey guys, welcome back to the shop today. Today we're working on the Regal again, trying to get a race ready. We are going to be doing a compression test and as well as removing the steering column for a final weld so I can get that all buttoned up. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know we did a lightweight steering column build. All I need to do is weld the spline end for the steering wheel connector and the one U-joint that was a weld on U-joint. So let's get started. So when doing a compression test, you usually remove all the spark plugs, or at least I do. There's probably 1,000 different ways to do this, but I pull all the spark plugs out. Since we're removing the steering column today anyway, I'm going to remove that first because, as you can see, it's kind of in the way a little bit towards once you get to the back spark plug there. So we're going to pull the steering wheel column out first, and that way we have more access to the rear spark plugs. That way it's not so much of a pain. So let's see how far we can get. Hey guys, so I just hopped in the truck here. We're going to head to my buddy Jake's. He's got a fairly nice Everlast TIG welder, and he agreed to help me out and weld up my steering shaft so I can get that sealed up and done. Sorry if you hear all the mud flipping off my tires today. I made a dumb decision and tried to move my enclosed trailer off my very soaked yard and basically created a new garden for my wife. So yeah, we'll do some driving here, and once I get there, hopefully we can take a little bit of video of him welding up our steering shaft. I might even take a stab at trying to mess around with this TIG welder. I know it's something that I've really wanted to get into for a very long time. I think it's a skill that I would enjoy having. There's a lot of things that you can do with TIG welding: aluminum, stainless, all that jazz. So stick with us here, and once I get there, we will let's weld this sucker up. Guys, so we just finished up getting that steering column all tigged up at my buddy's shop. Thank you to him for helping me get that all done. So we're going to get back to the shop and get that thing installed. That way that's over and done with, and we can keep messing around on everything else. I also got to mess around with this TIG a little bit. He let me burn through a couple of rods. Learned a lot. I really want a TIG welder. Problem is, his machine is definitely higher quality than I can afford. So I'm going to start looking into some budget TIG welders and see if there's something that I can use a little bit more on the hobby basis. But it was a ton of fun. So let's get back to the shop and let's keep working on this car. Hey guys, one thing I wanted to point out is I'm pulling the spark plugs out right now. And one thing I can't thank enough are these nice little spark plug rails. They look good for one, but I can take this whole rail off, unplug all the spark plugs, throw it on the motor here. Lots of room to work on my spark plugs. And now I don't have to go searching for the wires off the distributor cap. At the track especially, you can just rip them all off and you know exactly where they go. You just bolt that rail back on and all the wires point right back to the spark plug they should be at. Really simple, really quick, and it looks good. So I got the spark plugs pulled out. So we're going to hook up our compression tester, and we're going to turn the motor over without spark, without fuel obviously, and we're going to turn it until the gauge hits its max peak. Usually 4 or 5 rotations gets us there. So I'm going to set up the camera so you can hopefully see the gauge move up as I crank, and we'll see if we can get some decent compression readings off this guy. So I can't really seem to get a good angle to use it just with the camera so you can see the gauge, so I'm just going to crank it over a couple times and then we'll go check it out. So let's go in here, give her a couple of spins. And we'll see where that gets us. Sitting at about, yeah, 160, 170. So now we'll just go to all 8 cylinders, we'll write it down, and we'll check to see what our, how our compares to last year, and that'll kind of show us where we were at and if we've lost any compression over the last season, and hopefully we don't have anything that shows up too low. So I'll be back in a bit. So I just finished up all 8 cylinders on the compression test. They all look pretty good. It looks like I've lost 5 pounds-ish on 3 out of the 8 cylinders that from last year's readings anyways. I do have quite the cheap gauge, so I don't trust it fully. Basically, I'm just using it to see if I have lost pressure over the last season. I also have been running this motor for a very long time, multiple years, actually probably close to 10 years right about now, and I've never had to replace a seal on this thing. So it's tough to say, and I only started doing compression tests about 1.5 years ago, so I don't know what it was originally. I highly suggest that people do this regularly. You can kind of see how far you're pushing your motor every year to see how if your heads are still sealing, if there's any leaks, etc., etc. Okay, guys, we got our spark plugs all back in the car as of right now. We got our steering column all tigged up. We're gonna get that back in the car. I'll kind of show you what we did there. This is what my buddy Jake did up for me. Nice clean welds. He said it wasn't his best work, but heck, it's a lot better than I could have done. So let's get this thing back in the car and get her done, and let's see how she works. Okay, guys, so I got the steering column all in and done. Seems to be pretty sturdy. Everything seems to be working out well. So far, the only thing I have a complaint with is this All-Star steering coupler. Very loose, but we'll see how it lasts and how she goes. Seems to be pretty strong and rigid. But yeah, I made this nice little hook up here. Get the steering wheel out of my way, that way I can get in and out of the car easier. So I think that's where I'll call this a video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Love seeing those numbers climb. That's how I grow. Leave me a comment. I'd love to talk to you guys. If you have any questions about what I did, let me know. There'll be more of this coming. Hopefully on the next video we can start this thing up for you guys. And then we just wait for tracks to open. Subscribe. See ya.